Bismillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, so let's start. There's a few who couldn't make it. I think Brother Sahib is actually working, and Brother Osman is not well. Made dua for him. Brother Zubair, not sure his book is there, but not sure where he is. But anyway, as usual, we'll start with a recap of what we have learned previously. So, what are the three types of words again? Is it fine? And half. So, for ism, what are the four properties of ism? Type, number. For status, what are the three statuses? Mansub. All right. So, and then for jumlah ismiyah, what are the two components of jumlah ismiyah? You must have mubtada and khabar. Mubtada must start with ism, right? Mubtada must also be marfu and no, not singular. Proper. Must be proper. Khabar must be must follow the gender and the number, and it must also be marfu. Right. Then what else? An ism that follows a harfu jar, the status must be majrur, right? Just looking at my notes. The genders. What are the two genders? Muzakkar, muannath. By default, ism muzakkar. Type of words, ism, two types. What are the two types of ism? Sorry, ma'rifah and nakira. By default, it is nakira. There is. Oh, you sorry. By default, it's nakira, yeah. So if let's say you want to make something from nakira to ma'rifah, let's say qalamun, what do? Al. And remove the tanween. Very good. Yes. And then yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Very good. Just going to go through the homework really quick. Anyone have any question on the homework before I go through every single one of them, or otherwise I'll just go through very quickly. I think almost the column that doesn't have any problem is the number, because it's all mufrad. I think that's the one that nobody got it wrong. But the status, I think there's still some confusion in terms of the pointers like hada, zalika, and also pronoun like huwa and hiya. So huwa and hiya definitely is going to be marfu, right? Because it's actually the subject of the sentence. If you say he is a teacher, so that's actually the subject. So he is the subject. So he must be marfu. And then for the zalika and hada, the answers that I accept are either marfu or unknown. Unknown because you can't really see, you can't really tell just from the word itself, because it doesn't show its status. It's actually mabdi, right? So the rest I think should be okay, but there's some, I think, confusion. Sorry? Yeah, so before we go to that one, I think some people got this one wrong. Some people put, actually this one, Abbasin, some people put it as marfu, but if you look at the last harakah there, it's actually kasrah. So it can never be marfu if it has kasrah. So it must be majrur. And then the other one that sometimes some people got it wrong is this one, mansub. I think some people put it as marfu as well. But you can see the fathatain, the fatha at the end, that actually tells that it is mansub. It's not actually marfu. Right? So the other one, I think this one is okay. This one is okay as well. The gender, I believe everyone got it right, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember now. But the only two that we have learned in this table that are mu'annath or feminine is sayarah, because Tamar Mutaq, and then here because it's she. So it's actually referring to a female. So that's why it is a muannath.
Just quick, one confusion there was, so we say here, but is here itself muannath as well, or is it what it's referring to? That
no, so the word itself is also feminine. Here is also feminine. The word itself is feminine. So the reason why it is feminine, because it is actually, the meaning of the word itself is something feminine.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, if you say mother, right? Umun. What? Umun. Umun, right? So that's actually a feminine word itself, because it is referring to a mother. Bintun is another one, daughter, also referring to a female. That's why it is a feminine word.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only two that we have learned so far. We will learn more on next one in the next lesson, but for now, that's the two that we have learned. And as I mentioned before, in this book one, everything is actually single. So everything is mufrad. But does anyone know what are the two other categories of numbers other than singular? What are the other two? If anyone, dual, plural, dual and plural. Yeah. So which is muthanna and also jama', right? That's the Arabic. So then the type, I think there was some confusion in terms of the type. So if you refer to slide number 21, when we talk about type, we're talking about two types, so proper and common. In the slide itself, I mentioned that there are a couple of categories of proper words. So pronouns are proper, like huwa and here are proper. Zalika pointers are proper. But I think some brothers misunderstood and they answered pointers, they answered like pronouns. That's not what the answer that I was looking for. I was actually looking for either proper or common. That's all. Only two types. Okay?
So Zalika over here, that's what I got wrong. So they're all modified because
Yeah, they are all part of the point, they're part of the category of proper. So if you go back and you have the slide on it. So, but slide number 21 is where you mentioned about the categories. But for now, we have learned the pointers and also the pronouns are proper. And also, obviously, the word that start with alif lam, those are all proper. Okay? All right, so that's that. And then this one, identify the mistake. Think this one, some people got some wrong, somewhere here and there. But Brother Zubair, mashallah, got it all right. So maybe I'll hide the result a little bit and I get someone to actually you can still see it. Okay. So Al-Kitabu Al-Kitabun Jadidu, the correction is Al-Kitabu Jadidun. Why? Well, Al-Kitabu?
because Tanween.
Because of Alif Lam. Alif Lam, right? So Alif Lam cannot have Tanween. And then Jadidun, why is it Jadidun instead of Jadida or Jadidin or Jadidu? Yeah. So because it's khabar. So Jadidun is khabar. So khabar must be nakira, right? So khabar nakira. So that's why it has to be Jadidun. The next one, Huwu Mudarrisun. So the correction is huwa. Why? Why is it huwa? Why is it not huwi or hu?
Damir.
Yeah, domir. But what is it? What's the term actually? No, not marfu. So the answer that the reasoning that I was looking for, I think everybody got it right. I think everyone got it right. But the answer that I was looking for is mabni. So huwa, it cannot be huwi or hu. It must be huwa because it's mabni. It's not flexible. It is what it is. Yeah.
I didn't actually see see it was Hubu. I thought that it was Huwa.
Oh no, it's hu.
We haven't touched Mabni in the first reduction, have
We did. Maybe too fast, but we did. Yes, Hadha is also mabni. Yeah, that. Oh, okay. Maybe I did miss it. I feel like
It was very quickly.
yeah, very quickly. Yeah. So the third one, I think this one everybody got it right. There was no mistake there, which is good. I thought that I would be able to trap someone, but nobody took my took my bait, which is good. The next one, hadal qalamu. What's wrong there?
It's Nakira and
Yeah. So qalamu. This is a mutada khabar, isn't it? So which one is mutada? Hada. So the khabar is qalamun, right? So qalamun, it cannot be ma'rifah because it's a khabar. So khabar mabni nakira. So that's why it's qalamun. Then this one, I think this one, a lot of people miss the at the front. So that one, actually, if you don't put even with the question mark, right? If you just read it like that, it's actually you are from China. It's not even a question, right? Without the at the front, it's not a question. You are from China. So you have to add alif, another at the front to make it a question. Are you from China? And then the other mistake was minas ni. So I have to be sini because after Afrujar. Yeah. And the next one, al kitabu ala kursiyun. The mistakes, kursiyi, and it has to be alif lam, right? Ala al kursiyi, because it's on the chair, so not a chair, the chair. So I have to be alif lam. And then after ala, which is hafujar, we have to make it majrur. And then obviously al kitabun cannot be al kitabun because alif lam. Next one, zalika. I think this one, a few people did take my trap because I said zalika, but the translation is this. So a lot of people didn't realize that Zalika is not this. Zalika is that. So Zalika, I have to change it to Hada. And then Kalbu, obviously that's wrong as well. I have to be Kalbun. And the last one, also a trap. Miftahun is not open. Miftahun is key. So this translation is door is key. A door is a key. So, but what I was looking for is the door is open, right? So I have to change it to al-babu maftuhun. Okay. The rules, I think we talk about this. So jumlah ismiyah, ism, mubtada, status must be marfu', type also always proper, ma'rifah. For khabar, if it is a single word, it must match mubtada in number and also gender. I think few people got this slightly wrong. The answer must match the status. It's not actually the status matching between the mubtada and khabar. For something to be a khabar, it has to be marfu anyway. So it's not because of the fact that it is khabar that it must match the mubtada in status. That's not the case. The rule is that mubtada must be marfu, khabar must be marfu. So it's not like they are matching in status, just so happen that they are both having the same status. But the reason of it being a marfu is not because it is following the mubtada. Does that make sense?
There can be a case it is not marfu, like it can be majrur, right?
Can be also, yeah.
The book is on the table.
Yeah, if let's say it's a shibul jumlah, it's a phrase, then yes, it can also be something like that, like you said. So not always as well. So that's why I corrected some brothers who got that one slightly wrong, and then the last one is actually majrur. Okay. All right. Any question before we move on to the actual lesson for today? Okay, Brother Hussein. The type okay now? Okay. All right. So today, what I want to cover is quite a heavy topic, which is Mudaf and Mudaf Ilaih. This is can you guys see that? Is it okay? Should I remove the, maybe I just make it a bit bigger that way? Is it too small? Can you see? Zoom in? Maybe I'll zoom it as we go along each of the sentence. Okay. Alright. So this one I changed it a little bit actually. The one that in the website is slightly different. So what I'll do is I'll upload it after this. But when I was reading the note that I had, I thought that it might be confusing the way that I did it before. So I added a few more statements just to make it hopefully a bit clearer. So mudaf is actually from idafa, which is adding, like add. So mudaf and mudaf ilaih is basically a word mudaf. Mudaf ilaih is something being added to it. So effectively, mudaf and mudaf ilaih is two ism, but you kind of merge it together to have like a different meaning. So by its own, it has a different meaning, but when you combine it together, it makes a different kind of meaning. An example, if I say door, and if I say masjid, you know what is door, right? You know what is masjid. But if I say door of the masjid, then it's kind of mean something specific and something that is kind of bringing a new definition to it. So it's not just a door, it's actually door of the masjid, right? If I say Khalid, yes, Khalid does have a meaning by its own. And if I say car, you know what a car is. But then if I say Khalid's car, you combine it together, it kind of bring a different meaning. You are just talking about Khalid's car. Okay?
It's making a proper.
Sorry?
It's making a proper.
It kind of making it proper as well. Because by default, when you make it like that, then mudaf become proper as well. Yeah. So in order to make this type of phrase, which is called mudaf ilaih, there's basically only yeah. So there's basically just a couple of rules. But before we go into the actual rules, I just want to go into a couple of examples in English first, just so that we understand the structure of mudaf and mudaf ilaih. So in English, if let's say we want to say something that is about possession or something belonging to someone, there's kind of three forms in English. So you can say book of Allah, or Allah's book, or his book. All of three mean kind of the same, isn't it? So Allah's book of Allah, and his book. Then same thing, car of Khalid, Khalid's car, his car, bicycle of Muhammad, Muhammad's bicycle, his bicycle. Alright? So my suggestion, especially for those who are learning this the first time, when you see something with that form, which is the second and the third form, change it back to the first form. Because book is actually mudaf, Allah is mudaf ilaih. anything before of is mudaf, after of is mudaf ilayh. But if you look at the second form, you won't be able, you might be getting confused. Which one is mudaf and which one is mudaf ilayh? If you just say Allah's book, you might get confused. And that's what I observe as well with some brothers. They get confused which one is mudaf and which one is mudaf ilayh. And sometimes when they translate Allah's book, they will say Allahu kitabi, for example, which is wrong, right? So first step, before you do anything, in your mind, try to translate it back into something of something. So let's say we take an example. If let's say I want to say the student's teacher, how do I change that to of? Teacher of the student, right? Teacher of the student. So if I say his bicycle, how do we change that? Bicycle of his, in a way. It's kind of wrong English, but just trying to get the idea across. Yeah. So once you have changed that to that form, then you will realize that, as I mentioned before, the word before of is actually the mudaf, the one that is the possession, and the word after of is the one that is owning the possession. So book of Allah, Allah is the owner, book is actually the possession. So book of Allah, and then let's say bicycle of his, bicycle is the possession, his is the owner. Okay, so that's the form first, right? So this one is just a kind of same example, the book of Allah, the mudaf ilayh. This one is just some of the example again in English. So the king of Persia, which one is mudaf, which one is mudaf ilayh?
Persia is Mudaf, the king is Mudaf.
Huh? Sorry, again?
Persia is Mudaf,
Persia is mudaf.
yeah, and the king is Mudaf. Yeah.
It's the other way.
The king is Mudaf.
The king is mudaf. The word before of is mudaf. After of is mudaf ilayh. The king of Persia. So this is before of, isn't it? So if you look at here, the book is mudaf. Allah is mudaf ilayh. So Persia, king. Alright? So here, the king of the jungle, which is mudaf, which is mudaf ilayh? The king is mudaf, of the jungle is, oh, no, of the jungle is mudaf ilayh. Okay? A book of fiqh, which one is the mudaf? Book. Book is mudaf. Fiqh is mudaf ilayh. Capital of Malaysia, mudaf is capital. Malaysia is mudaf ilayh. Now make it a bit harder. Our mother, which is the mudaf, which is mudaf ilayh? Mother is mudaf. Mudaf ilayh is our, because you translate it to mother of ours, right? His opinions, which one is mudaf, which one is mudaf ilayh? Opinions mudaf. His is mudaf ilayh. Okay. Her strategy. Strategy is mudaf. Her is mudaf ilayh. Get the gist of it? So that's basically how you can determine which one is mudaf and which one is mudaf ilayh. The reason why I want to emphasize how do you identify mudaf and mudaf ilayh is because the next slide I'm going to talk about the rules. But first you must identify which one is mudaf and which one is mudaf ilayh. Otherwise you will get it wrong and you will might be like confusing between the two and you will translate it wrongly. Right, so that's the first step. First step is identify which one is mudaf, which one is mudaf ilayh. Now, if we come to the rule, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, in Arabic, there is no of. If you see here, let's say, I'll go to the next slide. I think the next slide, I got some example. Yes, for example, this one, Rasulullah, I think everyone knows, right? That's the Prophet of Allah. There's no, you don't see the word of there. So the of is kind of hidden, like the is and are that we learned before is hidden here. And the way that you know that there's an of there is because it complies with the rules of mudaf and mudaf ilayh. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, for something to be a mudaf and mudaf ilayh fragment, the two mudaf and mudaf ilayh, they must follow certain rules. So yeah, so one is they must be next to each other. It cannot be like 5 words apart, like mudaf and then blah 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 something and then mudaf ilayh. It doesn't work like that. It must be next to each other. That's number one. Okay. And then number two, the mudaf ilayh must be majrur. Okay. So if you see there, mudaf ilayh must be majrur. And then mudaf cannot have alif lam. And one more. Mudaf. What is for mudaf? Do you remember? Cannot have alif lam and tanween. You cannot have tanween. So I repeat, mudaf, it cannot have tanween, and it cannot have alif lam. Mudaf ilaih, the only rule for mudaf ilaih is it must be majrur. And then the other kind of overarching rule is they must be next to each other. Is that clear so far? So example that I have in here is Rasulus. Okay, before we go into that, which one is mudaf, which one is mudaf ilaih? Looking at here, which one is mudaf, which one is mudaf ilaih? Rasulu is mudaf, right? Allahi is mudaf ilaih. Because the translation is Prophet of Allah, isn't it? So Prophet is mudaf, Allah is mudaf ilaih. Yeah? So Rasulu, what did we say just now? Mudaf cannot have tanween, right? So it doesn't have tanween. Rasulu. Instead of Rasulun, it is Rasulu. It doesn't have alif lam as well. So it comply with the rule of being a mudaf. Okay? And then the word after that, Allahi, it is majrur. And that's the only rule for mudaf ilaih. It must be majrur. So now this phrase comply with the rule of being a mudaf and mudaf ilaih. So we can translate this instead of saying Prophet and just Allah, we say the Prophet of Allah, because it comply with the rule of being a mudaf and mudaf ilaih. So the reason why I say the is because if you realize, I think in book 2 it mentioned mudaf is actually the status of the sorry, no, that's it. The type of the mudaf is proper. Mudaf is always proper. So when you translate it, you will say the Prophet of Allah. Well, although it doesn't have alif lam there, when you translate it, it's going to be the Prophet of Allah.
So we don't write it. If it is proper, why don't we add al?
Mudaf cannot have alif lam.
Not alif lam, but it is still
Is mudaf, it is proper by position. If you read in book 2, it says that. So it says mudaf is proper by position. By being a mudaf, it is proper. So when you translate, it's the Prophet of Allah. You don't say Prophet of Allah. You say the Prophet of Allah. Okay? So if we go to the let's just review the i'rab very quickly, or the properties of Rasulu, right? So what is the status of Rasulu? Marfu, right? Type proper, because we just said just now mudaf must be proper by default because of its position. Mudaf is proper. Okay, so the gender Rasulu is male, right? And the number Rasulu is actually singular. Now Allahi status is majrur. Type is proper because Allah. We all know. If you don't know who Allah is, then we got a problem. Talk to me after this. And then the number singular, and then the what's the other one? Gender. Gender is actually not Allah's gender. Just to be to be perfectly clear, the word Allah, the gender. We're not talking about Allah. We're talking about the gender of the word. Okay, is male. So just a quick review, but just a couple of things that we need to remember. First thing, as I said, make sure that you guys translate something from English to that first form, which is something of something. Once you have done that, you will be able to identify which one is mudaf, which one is mudaf ilaih. Then once you know which one is mudaf and mudaf ilaih, then apply the rule that I mentioned just now, which is mudaf ilaih must be majrur. That's the only rule for mudaf ilaih. And then for mudaf, it must be without alif lam and without tanween. I didn't say that mudaf must be marfu. Remember this, yeah? I didn't say that at all. Because sometimes mudaf can be majrur. Because mudaf can also be mudaf ilaih at the same time. Right? So just remember that. An example that I...
Also saying that,
Sorry. Yeah.
we're also saying that the mudaf is by
Position.
is marfu.
No, not marfu. Proper.
Proper.
I said proper, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the question or? Yeah, sorry.
So what you were saying now,
Marfu, the status.
yeah.
I'm just now before that I was saying that the type of mudaf is proper,
Oh, yeah.
but the status doesn't have to be marfu. It's not a rule for mudaf to be marfu. Just to remember, just to differentiate the type and the status.
It should not follow the number, right?
doesn't have to follow the number as well. So if you realize I didn't mention anything about matching at all for mudaf mudaf ilaih, doesn't have to be, because you can say like bicycles of shad, for example,
Yeah.
doesn't have to match. And bicycle is actually a feminine word, and shad is male. Doesn't have to match at all because it does work, right? So it doesn't have to match anything. The only rule is mudaf ilaih must be majrur, mudaf must be, what are the two rules?
Proper.
Proper.
And
Well, that's not the rule, but what's the rule of mudaf? It must
cannot have tanween.
cannot have tanween and
Cannot have al.
cannot have alif lam. That's it. So that's basically mudaf and mudaf ilaih.
Two rules only.
Yeah, two rule for mudaf, and then one rule for mudaf ilaih. Done.
Cannot have tanween. Cannot have al. And that was
Okay. Clear so far. Let's go to some example before I go into this exercise. I'm going to go to here. All right. You don't have to know the meaning of this phrase or sentence to be able to identify whether this is mudaf or mudaf ilaih. So I'm going to go through every single one, and then you tell me whether this is mudaf or mudaf ilaih or not. So the first one, kitabun markum, is it mudaf mudaf ilaih fragment or not? Why?
Tanween is
Kitabun tawin,
Yeah.
and then it's not majrur as well, isn't it? So it's not a mudaf mudaf ilaih fragment. The next one, asfim ma'kulin.
Cannot have because we have tanween here, right?
Which one? This one?
It can't be
First one,
majrur.
sir.
Asking can't be majrur.
Ah, wrong.
When it has tanween, the problem is tanween.
Yes, yes. That's the reason why this example is here. Remember what I said. For mudaf, you don't care about the status of the mudaf. It can be majrur, it can be mansub, it can be marfu. But what's wrong here, as Badi Isra said, it has tanween.
Tanween.
Definitely it's not mudaf if it has tanween. That's how you know that that's not a mudaf mudaf ilaih. Okay? Okay? Now the next one. This one should be easy. This is mudaf mudaf ilaih or not?
Yes.
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 Yeah. So why? Because kitabu is
Without tanween,
mudaf, because it doesn't have tanween.
it does not have
It doesn't have alif lam as
The
well.
next word is
Majrur. Exactly. Right? Now next one. La'alla sa'a. Is that mudaf mudaf ilaih or not?
No.
Why?
It's should be
Sa'a must be majrur, isn't it? La'alla looks like it could be, because you can't tell. But it's actually it's not as well. It's not mudaf. You will learn that in book 3. But an easy tell is sa'ati. Should be sa'ati at least, right? But it's not. So that's not. Minallahi. Is that mudaf mudaf ilaih or not?
yes.
No, it's not. Mean is not ism. Mean is not.
Exactly.
Two ism. Right?
Yes, yes. That's a fujar. Good. So, a trick question. It might look like a, but mean, if you remember, mean is harf. The rule of mudaf mudaf ilaih, both must be ism. So that's not. That's fujar. Okay. So next one, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Is it mudaf mudaf ilaih? No, because alif lam. Alif lam. Cannot have alif lam, isn't it? Ghafurur Rahim. Easy. Yep, easy. This one tricky a bit. Min qawmi Musa.
No.
So in that way, it can be because we said the first can be majrur because of something else. The first one is majrur because of min.
Mm.
Then the next one, Musa is cannot have
Because
it
it's
is a special name. So
It's mabni.
yeah, ma'am, yeah.
Very good, very good. So that's actually a mudaf mudaf ilaih. So again, remember, qawmi, it can be qawmi or qawmu or qawma. The reason why is it qawmi is because of min before it. Right? So min makes it qawmi, make it majrur. Right? So qawmi, otherwise it would be qawmu Musa, which means the people of Musa.
And Musa.
And Musa, it doesn't change because that's we kind of haven't learned it properly.
There was
But
Hind as well. I think it's something.
sorry,
Hind.
Hindun.
Hind.
That's different. Hindun can be because that's the tree. Yeah. But we'll talk about that because some brothers haven't learned yet, so I'm not gonna. That's why they might be getting confused. But that one is actually mudaf mudaf ilaih as well. Right. Now maybe we go to some exercise to see whether it makes sense. I'm not going to go to every single one because some words in English, the feminine one we haven't really learned. Maybe who want to try the first one? Khalid's car is broken. Yeah, but sorry, you have a question? Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Khalid's car. So first thing, what do you do? Car of Ali, yes. Okay, try. Sorry, again. As-sayyaratu? Do you say as-sayyaratu or do you say sayyaratu? Sorry, I didn't. Because mudaf cannot have alif lam, isn't it? Yeah. You translated the ka of alif, but it's actually cannot have alif lam. So sayyaratu, yeah. So this one is okay because what's the should it be maksurun or for the senior students? Khalid's car is broken, so sayyaratu Khalidin
Because of cover.
maksurun or
Because Sayyara is feminine tone.
maksuratun? Maksuratun.
Because of siyar.
Yeah, because of sayyaratun. But we'll talk about that for the
So what would we say then? So we say Sayyaratu Khalidi,
sayyaratu Khalidin.
Khalidin,
Yeah, maksuratun.
and Maqsood.
That's because the khabar the
So
mubtada.
this whole thing becomes Mubtada and that Maqsood becomes Khabar.
Correct. Yeah. So the mubtada in that case is actually the car. You're talking about the car. So the car is actually a feminine word. So the khabar, as
So
we
it's
said
got
before.
Mudaf Ilaih. So Mudaf Ilaih is those Khalid of Khalid.
Yeah.
And then the broken is the Khabar.
Correct. Yeah. So if
That's complicated.
so the
Shahad, when we say majroor, it can be with kasra only and as well as with tanween.
correct.
Majroor being both, right?
Majrur bin both, yes. When I say majrur, it can be with the two tanween, like Khalidin, or it can be with just one because of alif lam. So, let's example, the teacher's car, that you would translate it as Sayyaratu,
Car of teacher.
car of teacher, and then the car teacher is Sayyaratu,
Mudarrisin.
Sayyaratu Mudarisin. Something wrong there. The teacher's car,
Car of
car of the teacher, right?
Why would that is said?
So, Mudarisin is majrur, but there's still something wrong there. So, it's actually al.
because the teacher.
Yeah, which is called the teacher, right? So car of the teacher, right? So car of the teacher, so we mean that
Al-Mudarris.
Sayyaratul Mudarrisi because it has alif lam. So let me just write it.
Yes, that is.
So let's say first form is the
Two words, but it's just so
the teacher's car, right? So then when you want to translate it into Arabic,
yeah, it's a car.
you will change it to car of the teacher. Okay? So then car is Sayyaratu, isn't it? Sayyaratu. Okay? And then the teacher is Al-Mudarrisi. So obviously it cannot be Mudarrisin, isn't it? Because alif lam. So Mudarrisi.
And same goes for marfu mansub. Either it can be a single.
Yes. It can be, yeah. So by default, just remember that something by default, it would have tanween. Unless there's a reason why it won't have tanween. Maybe it has alif lam, maybe it's mamnu min as-sarf. Otherwise, then you always must put tanween. If you don't put tanween, you must question yourself, why did you put tanween there? There must be a reason why you didn't put tanween. Okay? So when I say majrur, I mean both. So just to, I guess, reiterate what Brother Isra was asking. When I say marfu, I don't necessarily just mean single dhamma or double. I mean both. Okay? Just depending on the context of the word or context of the sentence. Okay? I think we need to do more exercise. I think this still, the concept is not too difficult, but I think we need more practice probably. So let's say you want to say the students book. How do I translate that? Book of the student, right? That will be kitabu. Kitabu talibi. Alif lam or no? Kitabut talibi. Talibi. Okay? Make sense? Kitabut talibi. Yeah. Okay? I think you okay. You.
This is his favorite. So.
Betul-betul.
Any question, Sheikh asks, he said,
All right. So, maybe do one more.
So it's always about possession.
Not always. Not always. We'll talk about that more
Okay.
in a few slides. Not always. I'm just talking about one of the scenario where you will use Mudaf Ilaih, which is possession. More to come. There's at least one more. Okay. Anyone want to do? What are the other one? The teacher's fish is cool.
So the teacher went out from the principal's room. That would be interesting.
Which one?
The teacher.
Well, we haven't really talked about the what do you call that? Fail. I'm not going to go into that exercise for now. I'll come back to that later on. But let's see. This one. Amar's son is a student. Amar's son is a student. Where's my? So Amar's son is a student. So how do you translate that? Son of Amar is a student. So son is Ibnu. Where's my? Oh, no. Huh? Oh. Ibnu Amarin Marin Tolibun. Oops. Tolibun. Everyone happy with that? Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Right. So which one is Mubtada? Which one is Khabar? Not Ibnu Umar. Ibnu. Just Ibnu.
That's the subject.
The subject is Ibnu. You're talking about the son. Amal is just like identify which one. Yeah, so son is actually the Mubtada and Khabar is Talibun. Right? So Talibun. So as we said, it must match. So both of them marfu because of them being Mubtada and Khabar, they are marfu, not because they are matching each other. In terms of the number, it's matching. Talibun matching Ibnu, which is singular. And then the gender is matched as well. Ibnu is male. And then Talibun is a male word. Okay? So that's basically in a nutshell one of the example of Mudaf Ilaih where we are using possession. Yes, sorry, brother.
So in this example, Ibn al is Mudaf and then Talib makes it the Khabar sentence.
So when we want to make a sentence, just to recap, we say that when we want to make a sentence, it must have a mubtada and khabar. Yes? And we said a phrase or fragment is not a sentence. So if let's say I say a fragment like on the book, it's not a sentence, isn't it? It's a phrase. Now if I say Khalid's car, it's also not a sentence because it is still a phrase. You're still not saying anything about Khalid's car. Right? So in this example, son of Amar or Ibnu Ammarin, actually I missed the Tadwin, Ammarin. No. As you guys want. Something a bit difficult, but Ammarin, yeah? So in this case, Ibnu Ammarin is actually a phrase. Amar's son. You are still not saying anything about Amar's son. What is it about Amar's son? So the subject here is not Amar. The subject here is the son. We're talking about the son, right? So Mubtada is Ibnu. You still might need to have a khabar to make it a sentence. So the khabar here is student. Basically, you are saying that Amar's son is a student. You are providing some information about Amar's son, which is he is a student. Another way of doing that sentence, if you use...
But the Mudaf and Mudaf Ilaih story finishes with Ibn Umar.
Yes, it finished there.
And
The
then
phrase finished there.
Talib makes it a complete sentence.
Talib making a complete sentence.
But then it becomes Mubtada and Khabar.
So the mubtada is the Ibnu,
Yeah.
khabar is the student, Talib. So phrase, yeah. So another way to look at this, right? So son of Amar, we can just say he, isn't it? Oops. He is a student. Means the same thing. So he is actually a mubtada, right? And student is the khabar. So when we say son of Amar, it's just qualifying it further. Additional information about the subject. But practically it's just he. Kind of mean the same thing. Okay? So that's one scenario of Mudaf and Mudaf Ilaih. Now, if we go into the other one, we talk about that, we talk about here. Alright. So this one is a new thing that we are learning today for, I think, the new brothers. We have learned about pronouns, yeah? So we have learned about hua, hia, and I think everyone probably know ana. Ana is I, hua, he, hia, she. What we haven't learned is anta, anti, but I think that's quite familiar as well, I'm hoping. Anta is you for male, anti is you for feminine. Okay? So hua, hia, anta, anti, ana. So these are the 5 pronouns that we will learn in book 1. The dual and plural we will learn in book 2. But for book 1, that's all we need to know. Hua, hia, anta, anti, ana. So the way that I usually do the table, I would do something like this, where we put the third person at the top, followed by second person, and then first person. And you see here, the third person, we then divide by the masculine and the masculine, feminine. But then for the first person, ana is the same. For both female and also male, both are ana. Okay? So the translation for hua, I think I mentioned before, it can be he or it. If let's say you're referring to book, you can say hua, which is it. Book is a male word, so you can refer to it back as hua. If let's say you're referring back to a car, which is sayarah, a feminine word, you use here because you're referring back to a feminine word. Okay? So he or it or she or it. And then for the second person, as I said, you, but obviously in English you don't differentiate between you female or you feminine. But in Arabic, you have to differentiate between the masculine and the feminine. So you, male, anta, you, feminine, anti. And then ana, as I said, no change. Yeah. Now, the mudaf ilaih, we can also use it to say something like we talked about just now in the third form, where we say his book or his bicycle or his car. But how do we do that? So the way that we do that, again, go back to the rule. We will say, instead of saying his book, we will say book of his, isn't it? So book, we already know, kitabu. But how do you say his? So in this structure, you will see that there's this column called attached pronouns. So attached pronouns is how you would attach the actual pronoun to the ism to make it like a mudaf ilaih. So if let's say you want to say his book, how would you say? Kitabuhu. You just attach the hu to kitabu hu. Make sense? You want to say his car, how do you say his car? Saya ratuhu. Saya ratuhu. If you want to say her car, saya ratuha. So the her is ha, and then similarly for the anta, you see the anta is fatha, isn't it? So that's one easy way to remember. Anta is ka, anti is ki, because it's matched the kasrah, fatha, fatha. Okay, does that make sense or confusing? Okay, right. So do more example. I think if I want to say his desk, how do I say his desk? Maktabuhu. Maktabuhu. If I want to say his watch, his sa'atuhu. Does that make sense? Okay, make sense?
Yep.
If I want to say my house, baiti. So my, you have to add the ya to it, and then the difference is that you don't say baituyi because it's hard to pronounce. So in Arab, they always like to make something like flow nicely. So you don't say by to yi. Oh, that's not yi. No. Yes. So you don't say by to yi. When this happen, when there's a ya towards the end, this will actually become by ti. It will actually pull. The ya is strong enough to pull the dhamma to become kasra. So we say by ti. You won't say by to yi. It's hard to pronounce anyway. You will say by ti.
Is it by the
No, it's actually going to be
by the
Going to be by T.
by T.
Okay. So that's basically it. The rule is exactly the same. You must remember, Mudaf cannot have alif lam, isn't it? There's no alif lam there. As you see, by 2 doesn't have alif lam. And also it doesn't have tanween. The only difference is that now you're saying like his book or my book or her book or her book, his book, you're just attaching the pronouns for that particular version into the actual Mudaf.
Can we do an example for
Yes.
you?
Which one? Your car. Okay. So if let's say you want to say your car, right? So
Say,
your car
say,
is basically car of yours, right?
say,
Yeah, sayara tu car. So depending on whether you say male or female, I assume you mean male. So sayara tu car. Make sense?
Sayara word, Sayara too, it's a female word.
Yeah, it is a female word, but you are so
But who you're referring to is
as going back to the rule, mudaf and mudaf ilaih doesn't have to match in terms of gender, whatever. It doesn't have to match at all. The only rule of mudaf doesn't have tanween and doesn't have alif lam.
yeah.
So sayaratu is already correct, right? So now you just, instead of saying sayaratu, let's say al-mudarrisi, you just want to say her. So you're just attaching the ha to it. Sayaratu ha, sayaratu ka, sayaratu ki, sayarati, sayaratuhu. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the mudaf, same rule. The only difference here is that you are attaching the pronoun, the attached pronoun version into the mudaf. Okay. All right. So that's actually that one, that column. Now the last column here, it is also talking about belonging, but this one is slightly different. So we have, if you guys recall, when we talk about the harfujar, I said one of the harfujar is actually la, which is for possession. I'll go back to the slide. Not sure whether you guys remember, but when we talk about the harfujar, that one, la, possession. So it's four. It's under the harfujar category, the la, the letter la. But in order for you to say something belong to someone, and by using la, again the rule kind of mean the same. The rule is similar. So let's say, for example, you want to say the books belong to me. You can say li. Kita li, the book belong to li. Lil kita bu, isn't it? There's yeah. So let's take another example first. So if let's say we want to say the book belongs to the teacher, you will say al kitabu, and then in order to say belong to the teacher, you say you add li lil mudarrisi. Let me write that down. So if I just want to say the book belongs, what is the? It has a space, but no. So the book belongs to the teacher. So the book is Al Kitabu, right? Al Kitabu, and then belongs to, you put the, and then the teacher is, by default it is Al Mudarrisi, isn't it? Mudarrisi. So Li Al Mudarrisi. Where's my cursor? Okay. Li Al Mudarrisi. That's like the word to word translation, right? So this one Al Kitabu Li Al Mudarrisi. But in Arabic, you don't actually write it that way. When there is lam like that and alif lam, you will actually omit the alif here. It will become lil. Oh no. Deleted the wrong one. Struggle with the left and right with Arabic. Yeah, so you put lil, you put like that.
So is this still Mudaf Mudaf?
This is not really Mudaf Ilaih, but I put it under this because
This is just Mudaf.
this is still so the li is actually one of the harfujar, one of the hurfujar. So the rule of harfujar, the ism after it must be majrur, right? So lil mudarrisi. But I put it under kind of this topic because we are talking about possession. So I just want to say what's the other way of saying something belongs to someone. So
Cannot be mudaf because of lam, al-kitab.
yeah, exactly. So it cannot be a mudaf anyway because al-kitabu, you can see the alif lam there. So it's not mudaf ilaih. You were just saying another way of saying the book belongs to the teacher. You can also say the teacher's book, isn't it? Which is a different structure. But if you see the book belongs to the teacher, it's actually a complete sentence already, isn't it? The book, what about the book? It belongs to the teacher. Why is it a complete sentence? Because, okay, maybe who can answer why the book belongs to the teacher is actually a complete sentence? More, I need more, not just al.
Is
This is a mubtada khabar.
Yeah.
There is a subject and there is a information. About
Exactly. So that's what we say is that jumlah ismiyah, it must have two components, right? Mubtada and khabar. The mubtada here is al-kitabu. And then the khabar is actually the phrase. Lil mudarrisi belongs to the teacher is the phrase. It's a harfujar, isn't it? So we say that the mubtada, subject, followed by khabar. And khabar can be a phrase or can be a single word. In this case, it is a phrase. I think the battery is running low because I forgot to bring that. So in this case, it is a complete sentence. But if you say the teacher's book, it's not a complete sentence because it's mudaf ilaih and there's nothing to it. You're not saying anything about the teacher's book. But this one, there is a mubtada and there is a khabar. So there's a difference between the mudaf ilaih and this one being a mubtada and then plus a phrase harfujar.
So if we just said the teacher's book,
Mm-hmm.
so we just go book of the teacher and they will go
Book of teacher,
Kitabu
kitabu,
al-Mudarrisi.
al-mudarrisi, correct. So that's the fragment. You just need to add a khabar to it, like it's new, for example.
And then you can have something else.
Yeah, something after that.
But you would go Kitabu,
Kitabul mudarrisi
Kitabu,
jadidun.
yeah.
Example. Okay. Um, okay. So uh, so kind of similar thing. So if let's say just now we talk about the Lil Mudarrisi. So if let's say we want to say the book belongs to her, we can also say Kitabu laha. Al Kitabu laha. So Al Kitabu, the book, belongs to her laha. Make sense? Kitabu lahu, Al Kitabu, the book belongs to him, lahu. Okay? Does that make sense? This one is quite a big topic. Hopefully I'm not confusing you guys. But
It's just a lot to remember.
yeah. So I think the key thing for tonight is first to identify that it is a mudaf ilaih first. Change it into that structure. Once you change it to the off structure, you know that mudaf ilaih, you know that mudaf ilaih must be majrur. Mudaf must be not having tanween and must not have alif lam. Once you apply that, and then you just make it whatever, add something to khabar, make it khabar. So that's one. The second one that we are learning tonight is just additional pronouns, which is anta and anti, right? And also the attached pronoun version, which is how do we say his book instead of saying book of him, book of he. In English, that's not correct. You cannot say kitabu huwa, right? So you will say kitabuhu. That's basically the gist of it for tonight. Okay. Now, just to make things slightly more complicated, here I put that there's two, who or he. You can use who or he depending on whether no. It's actually the word itself, the last harakah of the word. So let's say, for example, you want to say on his book. So you want to say on his book, how do you say that? Not alal kitabuhu. So on on his book. How do you say that? On book of his, isn't it? So how do you translate it? Ala? That's not ala kitabi tabihi. Tabihi.
Because of Allah.
Yes, because of Allah. So Allah make kitabu become majrur because it's harful jar, isn't it? So ala kitabi.
He.
Now he kitabihu doesn't sound nice. So kitabihi. You just look at the last harakah. If the last harakah of the mudaf, yeah, just change it to kitabihi instead of kitabihu. That's the only rule there. So that's another reason why I said the mudaf. You don't talk about the status of the mudaf in the rule because mudaf can be majrur because the word before it is actually harfu jar. So it can be majrur. It can be mansub as well. Okay? Hopefully that's not too confusing.
So kitabihi in itself is mubtada.
No, it's not yet.
It's a phrase.
It's a phrase. Yeah, it is mudaf ilaih.
It's not
Kitabihi. Kitabihi is actually mudaf ilaih.
in itself.
In itself, it's a mudaf ilaih. And then it's also like the kitabi is also the jar majrur of the ala because ala is harfu jar, so the ism after it become majrur. So, but it is still not a complete sentence, isn't it? But what is the mubtada? There's no mubtada there. So you must say something. The pen, for example, is on his book. Then it is a complete sentence, right? So you will say al qalamu ala kitabihi. So then it will be a complete sentence because then there is a mubtada. Al qalamu, which is marfu and proper. That's the rule of mubtada. And khabar, as we said, khabar can be a phrase. In this case, there's a whole phrase. Ala kitabihi. The whole phrase is actually the khabar. Okay? Might need more practice probably. Because quite a few things to digest. Might be.
A couple of examples.
Yeah. So let's go to more examples. Let me see what's the next slide. This one not too important for now. This one I think we'll cover in the next one because it's too much already, I think. Resolve. Cover next one. Let's go through more examples, I think. Okay, so let's say the merchant's shop is closed. Anyone want to try that? The shop of the merchant. So that's the first step. Yep. So how do you translate the shop of the merchant is closed? Sorry? Duka. Nu. Cannot add. Mudaf cannot have alif lam. Yeah. So dukanu. 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 Dukanu tajiri. Dukanu tajiri. Mughlaqun. Close. Make sense?
Why did we say tajri? There's nothing we can.
Mudaf ilaih. Mudaf ilaih must be majrur. Dukanut tajiri. So there's alif lam, Dukanut tajiri. There's alif lam. So you say Dukanut tajiri. Where is Muhammad's book? Aina kitabu Muhammadin. Aina is where? And then kitabu Muhammadin is Muhammad's book. Or book of Muhammad. Right? This is Hamid's house. You want to try? Hada? Hada baitu? Baitu Hamidin, yeah? Yeah, there's no alif lam. Hamid, yeah. Just want to hear. Yeah. So Hamid is already proper. You cannot add alif lam to Hamid already. So هذا بيت حامد. Not sure whether you guys remember maternal uncle in your vocab.
Khalid.
Khalun. Khalun. So, how do you translate Hamid's maternal uncle or Khalun is poor?
Khalid.
Khalu. Hamidin. Fakirun. Hmm. Anyone know the bicycle? People, Fatimah bicycle? Darajatun. So Fatimah bicycle is new. Remember, this is feminine because just for the brothers. So when the mutada is feminine, we say that it must match. The khabar must match, right? In terms of the number and gender. Make sure that the gender, the khabar is also feminine. So for feminine word, let's say jadidun for new. To make it feminine, you just add tamar wuta. So jadidatun. Instead of jadidun, jadidatun. That's the only thing. So I don't want to try. The Fatimah's bicycle is new. Actually, that we haven't really learned that. That's okay. Okay, try. Maybe for this I can try. I think this one because it's that's okay. Okay, try first. Fatimah's bicycle is new. The Roger too. Yeah, the Roger too. Ah, good. I thought that you would. Yeah. So this one,
What happened there, Fatima?
we will learn that later.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a bad example for you because we haven't learned one of the concept called Mamnu bin Asarf. Forget about that one for now. Bad example. The teacher's fridge is cold. Salajatu. Salajatu. Salajatul. Alif Ram, right? Salajatul.
The teacher, yeah.
Mudarrisi. Yeah.
Bari.
Faridun. Baridatun. Kasalaja. Always make sure mutada khabar. That's the next lesson. Yeah. Need practice basically. Need
Can I
practice.
repeat that again? So,
Okay. So fridge is salaja.
Salaja, yeah.
Salaja, right? Which is a feminine word because it ends with tamabuta. Salaja tun.
Okay. Now.
So salaja tu. And then teacher must be alif lam, right? Because it's the teacher, right? So salajatul mudarrisi. And then kol, you know kol in Arabic?
Bari, yeah.
Baridun. But to make it feminine because the mubtada is feminine.
It's
So how you do?
Bari.
Baridatun.
Baridatun.
Yeah. Add the tamabuta idea. Baridatun.
It's not Bari the two, it's Tun. Because
Tun. Yeah. Yeah. You must have tanwin
Because
because in nakira.
So it's Tanween
Khabar.
unless you have a reason for Tanween.
Again, yes, exactly. And khabar, as we said, it must be nakira, isn't it?
Yep.
For single word, it must be nakira. So you cannot suddenly remove the tanwin without any reason. Okay. Few more minutes.
Just take me a few days.
Well, I need your help. Like,
So,
the app installation.
oh, okay, okay. Let's do some other example, not using this one, but using the his or her. So you want to say his car is old.
Harufi, Sayaratu,
Sayaratu. His car is old.
Sayaratuhu,
Sayaratuhu.
always
Kodi. Kodimatun. Because sayaratu muannas.
Yes.
So you must make sure, always make sure the khabar and mutada must match in terms of the number and the gender. You want to say her pen is in her book, her bag. Her pen is in her bag.
Kalam,
Her pen is in her bag. Qalamu,
Kalamuha,
qalamuha is in her bag.
Fi,
Is in her bag. Fi is in.
Bag of her.
Kibatun. Bag.
yeah.
So qalamuhu, yeah. Her pen is in
Kalamuha,
her bag.
Fi,
Qalamuha fi
okay.
haqiba tuha. Just remember, don't put alif lam because people sometimes make mistake to add alif
So
lam.
it becomes ha as well.
Yeah, ha. So her pen is in her bag. Yeah. So her bag is hakibah to ha.
So there's two mudaf
There's two mudaf there, which is pen?
kalatuha and hakibatuha.
hakibah to ha. Yes, yes. His car is in front of the masjid.
Sayaratuhu,
Sayatuhu in front of
Hidden gun.
Raj. Front is
amama.
amama.
Amama
Masjidatu.
in front of the masjid. Amama. How do you say in front of the masjid?
He's trying to put the tab on.
I'm just trying to think.
No.
Because Sayara.
No.
That's what.
So remember, khabar, only when it is a single word, then you must match. In this case, it's not a single word, it's a phrase. You are saying his car, the subject is feminine, yes. But then,
Sayaratuhu.
in front of the masjid is a phrase. It's a phrase by itself, in front of the masjid. So you don't say masjidatun,
So it's a masjid.
not masjid as well. In front of,
It's mudaf ilayh.
it's really mudaf ilayh as well.
In front of masjid.
So amam al masjidi.
Masjid, yeah.
But that's really something that we will talk about that, I think, in the next one, because I think it's too much already. I think looking at the it's probably too much. But yeah, like I said, Mudah Mutawila is quite a heavy concept. It's probably the hardest out of the phrases that we are going to learn in book one. I think this one, to me, this one is the most confusing one. The rest is very easy. Okay, so as usual, I'll post the homework. I already got the questions ready, so I'll post the homework. I don't put too many questions because we only have 2 days, because Thursday is already the class, so I didn't put too many questions. But maybe this is some slide that we have to go through for Mudah Mudah that we haven't covered. The Zof. So have a read on what you have learned today as a review, and also look at this one. Is not too important. This one. So the amama just now in front of is actually mudaf. It's also a mudaf. It's amama because by default zarf. What we talk about that later, but it's actually mudaf, and that's why the word after it must be majrur as well. I think that's a good place to stop probably. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Baik.